Minsan ako'y nadala sa isang tribong dumagat. Ang buhay nila'y naasa sa biyaya ni Makilipet. Ngunit ako'y nalungkot sa aking nakita't naranasan. Lupaing alay ni Bathala, inangkin ng ilang gaman. On potok mi ayana di ni Makilipet. On potok mi ayana di para represent.
Good day, viewers! Today, we will explain to you the correct procedures and methods on how to properly file a research proposal to our
Indigenous peoples!
filing of applicants and payment fees. The researcher will go to the regional office with the application form and pay the required filing fee in the amount of 500 pesos. The research proposal should contain the following: identity of the researcher, purpose or rationale of the research, methodologies or methods, materials to be used and data gathering instruments, scope and limitation of the study, source of fund, period of research and chronology of activities involved, a manifestation agreeing to shoulder the administrative cost incidental to the research.
Review and evaluation of the application. The TMSD Chief, with assistance of the Regional Legal Officer, shall review and evaluate the application, attachments, and other supporting documents to determine the sufficiency thereof. If on the basis of objective evaluation, the research work proposal is lacking in material points, or there is a need to revise the same to make it culturally appropriate, it shall be communicated and remanded to the researchers for compliance.
Grounds for denial. Your researcher proposal contains intrusive intention. It's not quite culturally sensitive. It violates the rights of indigenous people. The research involves intrusive and actual experimentation of human persons that will pose an imminent threat for their lives and limb. It involves the exhibition of destruction of sacred places of worship grounds or other culturally sensitive areas restricted by tradition, and those that may violate the rights of ICCs or IPs.
Step 4. IKSP. Upon recommendation of the TMSD Chief that the application is sufficient and meritorious, the Regional Director shall immediately form the IKSP team. The team shall be composed of the Provincial Legal Officer, Community Development Officer, and the Tribal Affairs Assistant, having jurisdiction of the area subject of the research. The team shall facilitate the proceedings provided in this guideline.
Test 5. Transmittal. If the application is sufficient, the regional director shall send a notice of the sufficiency of the proposed research application to the applicant and the community through their elders or leaders. Thereafter, a meeting shall be called for the purpose of preparing a work and financial plan or WFP by the applicant and the IKSP team in consultation with the ICC or IP elders or leaders. The WFP shall be signed by the applicant and approved by the RD. If the application is sufficient or denied by reasons of any of the grounds provided in Section 3 thereof, it shall be returned to the applicant indicating therein the reasons of denial. The applicant shall have the opportunity to refile only once.
Step 6. Work and financial plan. The work and financial plan shall contain the following: expenses for food and transportation of the IP community, elders, leaders, and members who will attend meetings, conferences, and other activities identified in the succeeding sections. Documentation expenses, photo, video, cassette recording, reproduction of documents. Other logistics costs, the amount identified in the work and financial plan shall be held by the applicant and to be disbursed by the purposes for which they are intended.
Step 7. Conference and disclosure. Within 5 days from the approval and signing of the WFP, the IKSP team shall schedule a conference between the community members and the applicants on a date and the venue agreed upon all the concerned. The conference shall be held in order to allow the applicants to present the following: the purpose of the research, parameters, methodologies, materials, cost and source of fund of the research, related information on the intended research, benefits that the community may derive from the research activity, data gathering tools, and research work plan.
Step 8. Community decision making. The ICCs or IPs shall be given enough period but not more than 30 days from the termination of the conference within which to decide and issue a resolution expressing their consent or denial and the grounds thereof to the said research application. In case the ICCs or IPs accept the research application, they shall, during the decision-making process, identify the selected key informants, the extent of the information that may be disclosed to the researcher, possible restrictions and such terms and conditions which the community may deem appropriate, and the authorized signatory to the Memorandum of Agreement. Whenever appropriate, youth and women IP leaders from the community shall be involved in the research activities. In case of denial by the ICCs or IPs, the IKSP team shall submit to the RD a report on proceedings conducted together with the resolution of denial by the community.
Step 9. MOA preparation, negotiation, and signing. Within 5 days from the manifestation by the concerned ICCs, IPs of their consent to the research application, a memorandum of agreement shall be prepared and negotiated by the parties. The NCIP IKSP team shall facilitate and assisting the drafting and negotiation of the terms and conditions of the agreement. The terms and conditions of the MOA agreed to by all the parties shall be written in the primary language or dialect spoken and understood by the ICCs or IPs and translated into English or Filipino. After final review of the MOA by all the parties, the same shall be signed by the authorized ICC, IP representatives and the researcher. The concerned regional director shall sign the MOA after submissions by the IKSP team of the report. A copy of the MOA shall be furnished the central office through the OPPR. The MOA shall be the basis for the issuance of the certifications preconditioned by the regional director.
Step 10. Contents of the Memorandum of Agreement. The MOA shall stipulate the following: the detailed premises of the agreement, all parties involved, inclusive dates or duration of the agreement, rights and responsibilities of the parties, the extent of the information that may be disclosed to the researcher, possible restrictions, and such terms and conditions which the community may deem appropriate, the benefits to be received by the community, dispute resolution mechanisms, and sanctions for non-compliance with the agreement, other terms and conditions agreed by the two parties.
Step 11. Submission of report. Within 10 days from the conduct of MOA negotiation and signing, the IKSP team shall submit to the regional director the report and recommendation together with the resolutions of consent issued by ICC or IPs to the MOA signed by the parties for his or her appropriate action.
Step 12. Issuance of the certification precondition. Within 10 days from the submission by the IKSP team of the report and favorable recommendation, the regional director shall issue the certification precondition.
Step 13. Extension of time. In case the applicant fails to complete the research within the period stipulated, a request for extension may be filed through a letter addressed to the elders or leaders of the community. The grant or denial of said motion shall be embodied in a resolution. A copy of said letter and resolution shall be furnished the regional office.
Output validation. Within 10 days from the completion of the research, the researcher shall present the output of the community for validation. The IKSP team shall facilitate the conduct of validation. The result of the validation shall be contained in a resolution to be issued by the community indicating therein the ICC's or IP's general impression on the genuineness of the output and compliance to the Memorandum of Agreement and research process. A certificate of validation shall also be issued by the ICC's or IP's immediately after conducting the validation process.
Certificate of Validation. The Certificate of Validation refers to the certification issued by the authorized ICC or IP representatives evidencing that the researcher presented his or her research output to the community for validation and that the ICCs or IPs are fully satisfied with the content, extent, and manner of presentation of the information or knowledge that may be published or communicated.
Submission of output. A copy of the validated and approved research output shall be submitted to the Community Registry, Regional Office, Central Office through the OPPR pursuant to Part 7 of these guidelines and the NCIP Central Office Library through the OECH.
Publication. The community shall have the sole and exclusive right to determine the extent, content, or manner of presentation of the information or knowledge that may be published or communicated if the research output pertains to the religious, cultural beliefs, ceremonial paraphernalia, or sites. Such determination must be clearly outlined in the Memorandum of Agreement or in any document appended thereto or referred to there. Before research can be published, the researcher must provide a translation of his or her major findings and recommendations, as well as the pertinent research documentation to the indigenous community concerned, who shall have the right to comment and/or to correct factual data. A certificate of validation shall be necessary before publication.